On Friday, I had a chance to speak to House Majority Caucus Chair Dustin Manwaring and House Minority Caucus Chair Ned Burns about the first few months in their new leadership roles, as well as their respective parties' politics and end-of-session issues they have yet to address. Thank you both so much for joining me. I wanted to start by saying, you're both new to your roles as caucus chairs for your respective parties. Were there any surprises as you took up the roles this session? I'll start with you, Representative Burns.
Well, thanks, Melissa. I'm happy to be here. I have been. It's been interesting to see some of the personality dynamics that have shaken out. We sometimes have a little bit of tension, but for the most part, it's been really easy. Sometimes the most exciting thing is really trying to coordinate with Dustin here to get a pair slip filled out before we got to go. But it's been nothing that I was unprepared for.
How about you?
Yeah, I think with a lot of the new legislators we had this year, we have a large freshman class, and a lot of that obviously falls on the majority side. So we're all learning to work together with each other, but we also have a new leadership team. So it'd be different, I think, if I knew I was coming in as caucus chair to an existing leadership team. So we're all learning to work with each other. So that's probably the biggest thing that we had to work through this year, just to get how we work with each other and then the dynamics in our caucus. But we've got along well, and that's, I don't think, been a surprise. I expected that as I saw this freshman class come in. They hit the ground running and they were well prepared. So I've been excited to work with them.
It's the morning of March 24th as we're having this conversation. This was the target date for the end of the session. There are still a number of bills left on the reading calendars in both the House and the Senate. What are the going home issues for you two?
Well, we still have some appropriations, and I think today we hopefully will see the last of the appropriations be introduced. So we need to get those through. We saw yesterday we got the higher education budget passed off the floor, but we still haven't taken up the K through 12 budget, so we need to get that done. We have a trailer bill for Idaho launch that the House will take up today. But the going home bills, we passed the property tax relief bill, and we need to see if that makes it through the governor's approval. But that is a priority, making sure we get property tax relief this year.
You still need to take up the Medicaid budget as well.
Yeah, correct. We do need to take that up. We had a good budget earlier in the week. Sadly, it didn't quite make it across. I think that we've got a Department of Lands that we're still kind of hanging out there on, Secretary of State's budget. Like Dustin said, definitely K-12 budget, and there will be some interesting fights to be had there for sure. I'm sure there will be vigorous debate.
Yeah, Representative Manwaring, you brought up Idaho launch, which barely passed the House by one vote earlier in the session. There have been some conservatives who have criticized bills in which the majority of Republicans voted no, but they were able to pass with a minority of Republicans plus all of the Democrats. I wanted to get your take on that criticism.
Yeah, and I don't really view it that way. I know that's the message after the fact when you look at the vote count. But we have these debates and we vote on these Idaho issues when they're on the floor. And I never view it as we're voting as blocks or voting with Democrats or not. I know we have these criticisms after, but I don't view it that way. These are tough issues when you're on the floor and we're voting for our district and for our constituents, and they are very different around the state of Idaho. My district in Pocatello is very different from some of the districts up north or even in Idaho Falls.
I feel the same. We are a body of 70, and that body, to get something through, you've got to get 36 votes. You don't have to get a majority of Republicans or a majority of Democrats. You have to get a majority, and that's all it is. At the point that we are in there voting on something, the 36 is the important number, not the who makes it up.
Representative Manwaring, you sponsored legislation that passed the Senate on Thursday to move the presidential primary to May. The chair of the Republican State Party, Dorothy Moon, sent out an email earlier in the session really criticizing that bill and encouraging Republicans to reach out to lawmakers to oppose it. And that wasn't the only bill that the Republican State Party opposed with, emails and blasts to Republicans. Have you talked directly to Chairwoman Moon?
I have not talked to Chairwoman Moon directly, but I know Secretary of State on that specific bill, Secretary of State Phil McGrain has talked to her. We also have they have representatives from the party in the legislature. So Julianne Young is the representative that represents the party in the legislature that they've designated to be the representative. I've talked to her a lot. So there have been conversations. And I think one of the reasons that sometimes those conversations get, if there's too much talking going on, then you don't get direct conversations. And so my line of communication was directly with the Secretary of State's office, directly with Julianne Young, and I'm happy to talk to the Chairman Moon. And that's not the issue. There was miscommunication as that bill was moving through, but happy to talk to her about it.
After those emails went out from the state Republican Party, did you see an increase in emails from Republicans across the state?
I saw a few, not very many. I saw a few that came into me.
Representative Burns, you sit right next to the chairwoman of the state Democratic Party on the House floor. Do those statewide politics ever come up in conversations?
Not really. She kind of focuses on party business when she's wearing her party chair hat. And when she's in the building, she's pretty much exclusively focused on the work that we're doing for the people.
You both mentioned working on behalf of your constituencies and voting for the people in your districts. But as the caucus chairs, you also wear different hats too. Mm-hmm. You represent not just the people in your districts, but also your party in the House. Does that change how you approach decisions when you're voting or when you're debating on the floor?
I think to a degree it does. There's times that I reach out to members across the aisle and we're working on things or trying to get things accomplished. And maybe it changes the way I debate or choose not to debate. The vote is always the vote. That doesn't, I don't change my vote based on a relationship I'm trying to get down the road, to accomplish something else. But I certainly will sometimes hold my tongue if I think that it's going to be beneficial for a greater goal.
Well, yeah, and my vote is for my district every time. But when I look at my role as a caucus chair, I'm trying to bring together my caucus because there is diversity in that caucus, like we talked about earlier. And so I think there is more that holds us together than there is that takes us apart on these issues. So I think it is a factor. But at the end of the day, again, we're all voting for what is best for our districts.
Even if the legislature doesn't adjourn today, we are coming up near the end. As you look back at the last couple of months, what are issues that you're really happy about that made it to the governor's desk?
Yeah, I'm happy about House Bill 292, the tax relief plan that we passed. I'm excited to see what that does for property tax relief and actually to try to put more money into supplementals and paying off some of these school bonds and levies. If we could have a system in place where we're able to have school districts around the state that are able to bond off that money without going to the voters to ask for increases, that could be a game changer if that really works. And I'm excited to finally, hopefully, provide some direct property tax relief to Idahoans.
I would echo that same thing. I was a co-sponsor on the bill. I worked really closely with Chairman Monks and Speaker Moyle, negotiating hard on behalf of some of the things that I thought were important for, some Democratic priorities. But I think this is going to work, and I hope that the governor signs it, and I hope that we get to see some real meaningful relief and also maybe a lessening in reliance on bonds and levies.
How about issues that you wish the legislature had addressed but didn't this year?
You know what? I think I'm going to twist that question just a little bit. I think that we addressed a number of voting issues, and I think that when you look at how some of those votes came out on the floor, I think that we did the right thing. We said that we are not going to take away the right for absentee ballots. We are not going to take away affidavits. And I think those were strong messages that say that, we believe in our integrity of our elections. And we also trust that both the people that are voting and the people that are conducting the elections are doing them in a good, safe, fair manner.
Yeah, one of the issues that I think we're going to continue to address, maybe not a disappointment, but surely something that's at the top of the priority list going forward is making sure that we have Medicaid spending under control, and we're making sure that we understand the costs, and there's some cost containment measures because that budget continues to rise and rise. So that's one that we need to continue to keep our eye on for sure. And another one that we're going to be dealing with, and there's litigation pending, is the abortion issues. We've seen a couple of attempts to do something this year, but there's still going to be a lot to play out on those issues, and we're going to be dealing with them next session as well.
What are the issues in your mind that need to be addressed with abortion?
Well, we know there's pending litigation regarding EMTALA, the federal law, EMTALA, so the emergency room treatment stuff, and we'll see what happens there. We also have...
And that's specifically when a woman comes to the emergency room to a hospital that receives Medicaid funds and may have a health-threatening issue with her pregnancy, but not necessarily life-threatening.
Yeah, that's right. And that federal law requires the treatment, permits the treatment in those emergency situations. There's also an affirmative defense in our current statute, and there's litigation over that affirmative defense. And then we have doctors and hospitals around Idaho that are asking us to have some limited exceptions and to clarify our statutes. Going forward, there's a lot of clarifications and cleanup that I think we need to do. But those few issues, I think you're going to see us try to deal with.
Those were the same issues at the beginning of the session. None of those are necessarily new.
That's right.
Why didn't the legislature take those up this year?
Well, I can tell you there's been a lot of discussions, a lot of work on trying to decide whether the timing and whether we needed to do it this session and the right way to do it. There has been a lot of negotiation and attempts, and you've seen it even as early as, or as early as or late, however you want to say it, in session, as a few days ago, a bill introduced in the House State Affairs that was pulled back because there's still, some back and forth on whether this is the right approach. So this continues. These are difficult issues and timing and opportunity, but we're trying to negotiate things that we know we can pass and get signed.
Wanted to give you a chance to respond.
Dustin's right. It is a difficult issue, and I think he and I are going to have some disagreement on potentially how much, what the right amount of a woman's right is, whether we're talking strictly, medical necessity, or if there is, any ground anywhere else that should be discussed. And it'll be robust discussion next session for sure.
All right. House Minority Caucus Chair Ned Burns, House Majority Caucus Chair Dustin Manwaring, thank you both so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thanks, Melissa.
After our interview, House State Affairs Chairman Brent Crane announced his committee would introduce 2 abortion bills on Monday, with hearings scheduled for Tuesday. We'll continue to follow this story online. Look for updates at idahoptv.org/Idaho Reports.